Me.
That's right. Let's talk about you. And I want to talk to you. We started the interview off in a stupid way, just so I get to know who you are, and just so people can get to know who you are. Because if we don't create connections, then there's no connections. So to get to know who you are, the question this week that I asked everybody is: do you believe in ghosts?
Believe in ghosts. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
If you want to hear, I've had some ghosts. I have some ghost moments, if I should call them that.
Yeah. Let them out.
But do I believe in them? I don't. I don't. It's one of those things. So to give a little bit about myself, tell you a little bit about myself. My mom passed away when I was 5. So sometimes I like to think that she's still around, but maybe not as a ghost, but as, some sort of a creature.
Creature.
No, creature.
So spirit.
CR. Some kind of a spirit, maybe. It's like she still watches me, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
But
yeah.
I've had I don't know if you've ever had a dream where you're in bed and you feel like there's something there in the room.
Yep.
And I think it's all in the mind. I think ghosts it's all created in your mind, just like an hallucination or just like dreams, really. It's all in the head. I don't think that there's a real ghost. Now there are shows on TV where there are ghosts, or they're hunting for ghosts or something. And I think that old houses do make a lot of weird noises and things that may make you feel that there is a ghost there. But I don't think that ghosts are real.
Okay.
What do you think?
I believe that there's energies that we cannot prove nor disprove currently with the scientific method we have right now. Right. And whether that energy is a ghost or not, I'm not one to say. I say the same thing about religion. I think there's something out there, but I'm not smart enough to know what it is.
Right.
And if I was that, if I was that naive to think about it, then yeah.
I can agree that there. If you think about the universe, if the universe is infinite and it's all created, it's just why are we here? Science can explain everything, but it doesn't really explain why. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I don't know. It's a very hard question. I think agnostic is probably how I would describe myself, because I like to believe that there is something, but I don't really want to call it anything, and I don't want to believe in something that somebody else wrote in a book or whatever.
It's almost forced upon a person, right?
Religion is forced upon. If your parents are religious, then now you're religious.
Yeah.
At least when you're young.
Yeah, I think part of the Judeo doctrine, like Judaism, one of the things in it is that if your grandmother was Jewish, then your generations forever are Jewish. You're actually just grandfathered into it, which is really strange. But normally I don't go to religion, but I want to talk to you about what you do. And the reason I asked the ghost question is it's disarming, right? It allows you to let a little bit of yourself out there.
Sure.
You're born in the 90s, but you are a metal rocker dude.
Sure.
Is that fair? And I mean proper metal rock with the hair and the costumes and the Kiss-esque style of rock, if that makes sense. So how do you feel being a man born out of time?
It's funny when you say that, because first of all, yes, I love the 80s. I love the 70s, which I never experienced myself. I'm just watching it on TV. And then obviously on the internet and so on. But when I was a kid, it was everything that I knew about the 80s was from a VHS or maybe something on MTV, right? Music videos and so on, or documentaries. And even when I wanted to do this for a living, I wanted to be a rock musician. Even then, it was before the way it is right now with social media and so on. I mean, back then it was basically you had MySpace and Facebook was starting to grow, but it's very different today than it was back then. It's changed a lot. I mean, now everybody they have a smartphone. They're always on their phone. They're always on Instagram. There was no Instagram when I wanted to do this, so I have to adapt, not even to uh, to what is now, but I wanted to do it like they were doing it in the 80s. I can't even do it the way they did it when I wanted to do this. So I just have to really adapt to what it is now. And sometimes that's a little hard for me because the mentality today is quantity over quality. It's you have to post a lot every day, 10 things a day, and you'll be famous. And it's just I don't agree with that. I'd rather make something good. And I think actually I like YouTube over all the other ones because YouTube, at least you can make a video. And I made a lot of videos now because of the quarantine, just me doing a cover because I can take my camera, film stuff, film me playing or whatever, and I can edit it, make something good out of it. And I think that's more interesting than something that you took with your phone, a selfie at Starbucks or something. Yeah. It's boring to me. I like something that is more entertaining and has more replay value. So stuff. But anyway, if we want to talk about the music of the 80s, that's definitely what I wanted to do. And even though nowadays we're definitely, I feel like we're in a time when you can do pretty much anything because of the internet. There's a little community for everything. There's a community for people like 80s rock. There's people that like 90s grunge. There are people, so you can always find an audience for whatever it is you're doing because you can post it on the internet, and then you can use hashtags or I don't know. You're using key phrases to get people to look at what you're doing, and that's how you make fans, I guess.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you think that the fans lose out when it is so mass produced? For instance, my show goes out 30 times a week.
30 times a week. Okay, that's
I do 30 half-hour interviews in 4 days, which is
wow.
Most people look at me and say, "Holy chickens, what is wrong with your brain?" And I look after my kids at the same time. But do you think there's a loss for the fans as well? Not just as an artist when that stuff is just pushed out so much, but as a fan, does it come down to loss and not having? You say drop in quality. Does that drop in quality? Is it recognized by the fans?
I think it depends on the type of fan that you are, because some fans, I think they love being able to see what the stars are doing when they're not, perfect, and they don't have all the makeup and all the producers and so on working to make them look their best, which is what they would do if you're an actor in a movie. Actors don't look like that in real life, so you get to see a side of them that you wouldn't see otherwise. But you're also seeing, I mean, you do get a chance to get to know them, and that may be good if you agree with everything they have to say. But sometimes, and I try to stay away from politics, because sometimes the moment you start talking about politics, you're going to have one side that's going to say, "Oh, that's great that you believe that." And then you're going to have the other side. They're going to say, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're one of them." And then all of a sudden they hate you. "Oh, I blocked you. I unfollowed you." And you're creating sides. And I think entertainment, for the most part, even though it can certainly be political, but I think it's also about bringing people together.
Do you know who Dolly Parton is?
Oh, of course. Absolutely.
So Dolly Parton there's this famous interview where the interviewer is trying to ask her to pick one side over the other. Mm-hmm. And she straight up looks at him and says, "I don't pick sides. Everyone buys my records. I don't pick sides. That's not my job as an entertainer." And it's true.
Yeah. I think everybody loves her.
I don't know anyone that doesn't like Dolly. I've
never seen anyone say, "Oh, she's terrible," or "She's overrated," or something. I never heard that.
Yeah.
So I think she's special.
So from what I've read, you can play the violin.
Yes.
Can you tell us your experience about that and how that works into rock?
Um,
Is that a weird question?
there is some sort of a transition between rock and classical music. Mine was it started out with my dad, um, who is now retired, but he was a first violinist in the Trondheim Symphony Orchestra. So I grew up either having a babysitter or going to a concert. When I was 5, it was my mom passed away, and after that, it my dad wanted to teach my brother how to play the violin, and he's my older brother.
Hmm.
And while he was doing that, my brother was trying to do it, and he was trying to play like an ambulance sound, like that, and
Hmm.
just like moving one finger up and down, trying to get the right angle for the camera. And he was trying it, but wasn't necessarily getting it right away. But I was looking at it, I was thinking, just like air
Yep.
violining it. I don't know. That's not a word. Uh, I thought I can do that. I can do it. So give me the violin. Let me try. And so I did it right away. And my dad's like, huh, maybe you should play the violin. And because my mom was a piano teacher, uh,
Hmm.
I figured my brother played the piano. So it made sense because then we have one kid, uh, or each kid is playing one of the parents' instruments.
Hmm.
And so I started playing violin, was playing a lot of classical music, of I mean anything from Bach to Vivaldi, so on.
Hmm.
Played a lot of concerts that way. Played for the school, played for senior citizens, and all kinds of stuff over the years. Played for a lot of people at a young age, getting used to performing, getting used to uh, realizing that when you're on stage, if you make a mistake, you just got to move on. You have one shot. It's like theater too. You don't have a second take. You're doing it. So,
Yeah.
are you nervous? Maybe, but you know that okay, you have to be prepared. So I learned that from a very early age. And when I was 11, really, which I was kind of listening to rock and roll before that, but when I was 11, I really wanted to play the guitar.
Hmm.
And so for a few years, I was playing both. I started on an acoustic guitar, and I'm self-taught on the guitar. I had violin. I had a violin. I had a couple of violin teachers, but on the guitar, that's just me. And some of it, I think, is
Hmm.
because they're both string instruments. You can kind of use some of the same mentalities, but uh, I spent a lot of time just learning how to play. But I loved it. I just thought it was so much fun to play the guitar that I really wanted to play that instead, which I did exclusively since I was 15. That's when I gave up on the violin. And I said, okay,
Awesome.
just keep it, do one thing.
That makes sense. But you haven't stuck to one thing. You do vocals, you do producing, you do a whole bunch of stuff.
You
So,
know, I guess that you get to a certain point when you play an instrument that you want, you can actually move on to other things. I was so dedicated to the guitar for at least like from like 13, 14, 15 that I learned so much in a small amount of time.
mhm,
And as an artist, I wanted to be more than just a guitar player. Even though originally I wanted to just be a lead guitarist, like you were mentioning
yeah,
Kiss. I was a big like Ace Frehley fan. I just wanted to be Ace Frehley,
yeah,
and just be a lead guitarist, maybe sing a song or two during the show, and keep it at that. I never had any intention of being a lead singer or being like the singer in the band that sings all the songs. The only reason I did that is because every time I started a band with the intention of being a lead guitarist, I said, okay, who wants to sing? Nobody wants to sing. All the only thing people wanted to do, all my friends, all they wanted to do was play drums. Who wants to play drums? Everybody, everybody. Who?
well, we both know the reason for that, right?
Because they get all the girls.
Yeah.
I don't
Which is wrong. Which is wrong.
Yeah.
Uh,
I guess it's nobody wants to play bass because I guess the bass player doesn't. Well, I mean,
well, they
look at
move two fingers. Two fingers. That's
right,
it.
yeah. I do also play bass, and I
Yeah,
love to play bass. And if you go to my YouTube channel, you can hear me play bass on a few songs. But
that's awesome.
it's yeah. I guess I wanted to be a singer and and a guitar player, mainly because I'm the songwriter, and that's what I think of myself as. Like that's the big headline is songwriter, then guitarist, then singer, because to me it's
Mhm.
music. That's where the originality comes in. That's when you're actually creating something and using your brain to come up with something people haven't heard before. With a guitar, it's a little bit limited because we've already had people like Jimi Hendrix and Jimmy Page and I
Mhm.
mean, there's so many great guitar players that have just really come up with incredible ways to interpret the guitar. I can't add that much new to it, but I can definitely write music that is new and combine things that I love and put them together, make one cool thing. So mix a little bit of the '80s, mix a little bit of the '70s, and that's how
So
you get a Rocky Kramer song.
that's fantastic. Now, of course, you have those influences there, but where do you see rock going from where it's at? Because
Hmm.
there's been one golden age for what you do. Do you think that there's going to be another golden age come out, or in Norway it never really died, right? There's a lot of really heavy stuff going on over there, specifically in
True.
but here it's not as prolific, if that
Hmm.
makes sense. Where do you see it going? Is it going to come back specifically to North America?
To North America, that's a good question. I think the U.S. has a tendency to they if, compared to Europe. I think the U.S. they like certain things and they enjoy. It's kind of like uh, they like going to see the Rolling Stones for the 20th time
Mm-hmm.
more than maybe seeing 20 different bands that they haven't heard of. So the challenge is, what are you doing as a new artist that will make rock exciting again from the standpoint of having new artists? Because we're going, or not right now because we can't really go to concerts right now, but we're always thinking about seeing the bands we already love. And when we're
Mm-hmm.
doing that, you're not really starting anything new. That's not really bringing the music back to like a new height. It's just more of the same.
Yeah.
And I think that at least my mentality has always been that I want to write the music you haven't heard, even though it has a familiar sound to it. In a way, like
Okay.
it's like I haven't heard it, but I kind of feel like I have. So um, I think we have the opportunity to be successful because of social media can definitely spread the word really quickly. But I also
Mm-hmm.
think that because there are so many of, like, if you think of, okay, how many guitar players are there on Instagram? There's just
Oh, probably
thousands
7 million.
or probably millions, right? That are
Yeah.
they're making a video of themselves playing in their house. There's so
Yeah.
many of them, and obviously it's very hard to stand out from them because it's just, you're just seeing all these different people, and you don't really,
Mm-hmm.
you may not want to invest the time to get to know them, even though they might be doing something that's great. And I have come across, usually from performing, if we're playing with maybe three or four other bands, there might be a band that they have a really cool song or a really cool sound, and these bands are not making a dime. Nobody knows who they are, and I think some of them aren't. I don't think they're even together anymore. But they're great bands, and they're just not getting that push because there's so many people wanting to do it. And I don't know. I guess it's tough. So I think it's more that in the old days you had, okay, do you like Rolling Stones or do you like Led Zeppelin? But nowadays
Mm-hmm.
do you like these 100 bands or do you like these 100 bands?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so much to choose from, and there's so many of those bands that are a little bit of this and a little bit of that, or there's a bunch of them that are complete. They're just all the same, or at
Mm-hmm.
least they sound the same to me. Like I think a lot of the new metal bands, they sound very similar. The vocals sound the same. The guitars have the same. It's the same guitar sounds, same drum sounds because they're using drum samples. They're using the same amps or amp simulators. It's all produced the same way, and it all sounds the same. It's just a different band with different people in the band. So I don't know. I'm hoping that we can kind of bring back the '80s in that sense because I think the '80s had a very unique sound. Like when you hear a song from the '80s, you know it's from the '80s. It had certain production techniques that maybe were overused. If you ask some people, maybe
they were
too much reverb, or the drums were really massive, or everything was very, very hi-fi. But I think that today there's less identity. It's just a lot of things that are the same. It's so I don't know.
I agree. You look at David Bowie, for example, or the Stones.
Yeah.
They had their own identity, or even Kiss, or the metal bands, Pantera, very, very distinct in their sound. Metallica, very distinct in their sound. All those people, and yeah, maybe not metal, but realistically, it kind of merged into one genre there, rock metal, for a while. And looking at it today, I think a lot of it's also big business, right? Because if you have a proven winner like Kiss, why would big business try to promote the new guy? It would make no sense when you can sell 1 million records by promoting a Kiss record versus promoting the new guy that no one knows, right? So I think maybe it has a lot to do with that as well. So when you're writing, is there emotion in your music, or is it just rock to have rock?
There's definitely a lot of emotion. I think that, and it may sound silly that I say I'm not good with words because I'm here speaking my second language, but I think I prefer sometimes to communicate through music, which there are definitely words in the music, even though I've written a lot of songs that are instrumental. I just think that there are ways that music it affects you in a different way than words do. I mean, you can tell a story and you can make someone cry, but you can make a song that can make people cry with no words. Just I mean, just think about how powerful music is in movies. It really it can really make a scene just extremely emotional, but it can also make it completely goofy. You can have this exact same scene but different music, and it'll feel very different. And that's the power of music. So I like, I guess soundtrack has always been a big influence for me. And when I write, I just always write I try to write when I'm inspired. I don't sit down. It's not like if you work as an attorney and you work from 9 to 5, you're working these hours, then you don't work. Or maybe you do work, but you're doing other things. But when you're writing music, when you're being creative, it doesn't have to be just music, but it has to come from something. You have to feel it to be able to write it. And I've noticed that it's not something you can force. You can't force it out. You can't just even though when I read about artists like Rihanna and like the really big artists that are they're, the number one on Billboard artists, and they have 10 songwriters in the studio with them, and they're like, okay, you all write a song, you get 1 hour, write the song, come back, and we're gonna try to see what works. I could never work like that. I mean, most of my songs that sometimes I would say they take months to write, but it's not that I'm a slow writer. It's that I'm writing, like, let's say most people spend maybe a year to make an album. It may take me a year. It's just that every song is kind of working at the same time. So I may have the first 20 seconds of 8 songs instead of having one song finished and another one, just halfway through. It's just half half of 8 songs or 9 songs, and then they just slowly come together, and all of a sudden it's an album. So it's not that I'm
Makes
slower
sense.
than anybody else. It's just it's a different process. It's just work a little bit on multiple things and see what comes out. And sometimes maybe one part of a song may end up on another part of the song because it feels better for that song, and it brings
Mhm.
out a different emotion, or it makes it more exciting. And then it's just a matter of
When,
making it, perfecting it.
when you do write songs, specifically for the rock, for the, you
Mhm.
say you're a modern day Viking. Now, I'm not even going to qualify it, but what do you mean by that?
Well, I am 100% Norwegian, as far as I
Mm-hmm.
know, and at least from the research we've done of my family, it's all Norwegian, and Norwegians were at one point they were very tough people called Vikings, and I just think that um, I guess as a part of identity, like you have to identify as something, and I like. I mean, I think the Vikings were definitely doing things that they shouldn't have been doing. There's a lot of a lot of bad stuff, but they were
You
they were
qualify it though.
huh?
It can be qualified with the age that they lived in. The
Yeah,
people
I
they
mean,
were attacking did the same
if,
thing, just not on the extent that the Vikings did.
right? If you look at every country in the world, they have
Yeah.
something, or at least some period where they were trying to rule the world, and the
Yep.
Vikings definitely made a very, I mean, decent attempt. If you look all over the
Yep.
UK, there's a lot of Viking settlements and so on, and they were all over. They went to, I think, all over like to Spain and Italy and so on, um,
Yep.
trying to, I guess, trying to be the big rulers of the world. Did they succeed? Not completely, but hey, they did discover North America. So hey, there you go. Long before
True.
Christopher Columbus. So they,
I'll,
they,
I'll
they
argue the point on that. I would argue the point that the First Nations discovered North America, but like
okay.
the Indians, that's
Well,
really not a fair point.
well, I should say they were the first Europeans to
There
discover
we go.
for Europe. That's a good point, though. There was definitely that's something I would love to know is actually if there was any communication between Vikings and Indians.
Actually, on Nova Scotia, there is a place on some old Viking maps
Mhm.
that's called Vineland,
Right.
and they theorized that
Mhm.
it was the grapes in Nova Scotia and Newfoundland.
Right.
That's what they theorized. So, yeah, you
Yeah.
never know.
Yeah.
And actually, I believe there might be some longhouses that are actually buried as well, but they're not sure if they were Indians or Vikings that made them.
Right.
So yeah,
I've heard some stuff about that. And I guess if you believe the stories of the Templars, I guess they actually went to
yeah,
supposedly there to hide some treasures, some
yep,
really like very very expensive stuff.
yeah.
But I don't know.
Eh,
Yeah,
we'll
it was
we'll never know.
it was on some history thing on YouTube, so who knows?
Oh, actually, Canadians are starting to realize that there's a lot of archaeology going over in Newfoundland and
Yes,
Labrador and Nova Scotia, that they're discovering more and more of this stuff.
they're finding a lot
Actually,
of stuff,
really, yeah,
like settlements. Yeah.
yeah. We are at 29 minutes, and the interview is only supposed to be a half hour. You've opened my eyes to a lot of stuff.
Good.
I'm a 35-year-old man that I grew up from. I was born in '84, so I grew up when rock was really in its prime, and I
Yeah.
thank you for bringing those memories of my childhood back,
Mhm.
of the rebellion in my family members and stuff like that. So thank you for that.
I just want to say,
And
are you a big Kiss fan? Because you mentioned Kiss time.
no, I am
Because I
within
am.
reason.
Yeah.
Um, I was. I'm a fan of their business model, not necessarily their music.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. They have a great business
Does
model. I mean,
yeah.
it made more money on merchandise than most bands. At least they made it into something that is, well, it works because of their image with the makeup and everything. You can put that on dolls, you can put it on lunchboxes and so on. It makes a lot of sense. Brilliant.
Yeah. And they've got caskets that you can order online from Walmart. So how crazy is that?
Yeah, I'm not
branded Kiss caskets.
I mean, I'm a Kiss fan, but I don't want to be buried in a Kiss casket, which is also
There's people that do.
I know, and it's also a cooler. You can use it as for your beer, which only Gene Simmons could have such a crazy idea. Which
if he can get away with it,
hey, he gets away with it.
I want to thank you for coming on. I honor you for being here. People can find your stuff at. We didn't even plug your stuff. RockyKramer.com. It's down there.
RockyKramer.com.
You had intellectual conversation with me, which I wasn't expecting. So I thank you for that.
Well, awesome. Thank you. This was fun. I enjoyed it.
Awesome. Everybody say bye to Rocky. Oh, I end the show in one way. What's one thing you've done today for yourself to make yourself happy?
Make myself happy? Oh gosh.
And can't be this interview.
Not this interview. I think what I do every other day, which is I go for a 45-minute run. I always feel better by doing that. Exercise is good.
That's awesome.
Get exercise.
Awesome. Everybody will end the show. Go find RockyKramer.com. All his social stuff is over there, I'm sure, right?
Oh, yeah.
And go buy an EP or watch a video and give him a penny or two by watching the videos.
Firestorm. That's the name of the album.
Firestorm. That's right. I actually watched some of the video, I think. Anyway, or the making of is what I watched.
Anyway,
bye, everybody.
Bye now.